We're here today to talk to you about SpacePak. Some of you know all about it. It's new to some of you. So this is going to be a review of some product information and what's new with SpacePak. First thing you should know is these people are your local support team. Write these numbers down, write these names down. The second one should be Mike Daly at 717-903-7511. That slide keeps reverting back for some unknown reason. But this is your local group of people who can help you on a day-to-day basis with this product. First thing is a quick review for those folks who have been involved with SpacePak in the past but may have forgotten a few things. SpacePak is small duct high velocity air conditioning. So how does it work? We distribute air through a small 2-inch opening at a very high rate of speed. And while it's moving rapidly, it's actually at about half the CFM of a standard ducted system. So while a Carrier or Bryant system is going to operate at 400 CFM per ton, SpacePak's at about 225 per ton. So we're moving less air more rapidly. We move at a higher static pressure, a 1.5-inch water column static pressure, so that's where the high velocity comes from. And because we're moving less air, we're getting a better temperature drop over the coil. And that results in a better moisture removal, up to 30% compared to a conventional system. So in our climate, humidity control is a more important thing than temperature. You can be very comfortable at 76 degrees with lower humidity. So SpacePak system, a lot of people ask the question, sure, it fits into tight places, but does it work? It does work, and it works very well because we get more humidity out of the system. Basically, there are two types of duct work. There's a trunk duct, which is traditionally 9-inch round. It can be square or rectangular, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. And then the supply duct, as I mentioned before, is 2 inches. If you use 6 outlets per ton, you'll get approximately 2,000 BTUs out of that supply tube. The key to that is people often ask questions. How many outlets do you put in this room? Well, normally you still do a heat gain on it. There's no special magic to high velocity. It's the same as a traditional system. A BTU is a BTU. So once you know how many BTUs go into a room, that's how many outlets you'd put in. Basic characteristics of the system versus a conventional system. Again, we operate at about 1.5 inches of static pressure versus a 1/2 inch of your standard systems. Nominal CFM 220 to 350, traditionally around 220. Our motors move the air faster at 1,700 RPM with a backward inclined blower. This is going to be a very important note right now. If you're writing it down anything or even paying attention, make a note of this right now. The system's been around for about 50 years. And so we're starting to see an influx of units being replaced in the field. The Jersey Shore, the main line of Philadelphia have always been big areas for the small duct high velocity systems. The air handlers have changed over the years. If you get a call from a contractor or a homeowner that wants to replace their existing SpacePak system, the new air handler will physically fit in its place, but may require modifications in order for the system to operate properly. Do not guarantee that simply changing the air handler will solve the problem. We can replace the air handler, we can make the system work, but it may require some additional modifications to the ductwork. So make sure we're not telling the homeowner it's going to work out of the box. If he questions that, have him call the rep. So how does it work? It works with static regain. We're moving the air very rapidly down the ductwork, that 9-inch trunk line. It's moving quickly down there, and then we install a cap at the end of it. The air goes quickly down the pipe, hits the end cap, and bounces back. What that does, that gives us the same pressure at anywhere in the system. So if you put a manometer 18 inches from the outlet, 18 inches from the air handler, 18 inches anywhere in the system, you're going to get the same static pressure because that's a pressurized vessel. What that does for us is make sure we have the same airflow no matter where we are. Traditional ductwork needs to be downsized to make sure we get the air moving where it has to. Because SpacePak is pre-engineered, we get that same pressure throughout the entire system. Why that's important is it works. Preengineering allows anybody with aptitude for mechanical systems to install one of our systems. The system was originally designed to be installed by plumbers back in the 60s who knew boilers, knew where the hydronic houses were, but knew nothing about ductwork transitions or how to cut sheet metal. The picture you're looking at right now shows square duct, which is also a viable option. Again, we're showing that high pressure design. 1.5 inches water column is going to be anywhere along that way. So no matter where you are in the system, you're going to get the same pressure. It may not be 1.5, it might be 1.7, maybe 1.3, but wherever it is there, it will be the same thing 15 feet down or 20 feet down. Provided you install your outlets properly, you get the same velocity at each one of the outlets. So the supply tubing we provide to you, as long as you keep it within 9 to 15 feet, will have the same outlet velocity and the same CFM. Again, 6 outlets per ton will give you between 37 and 40 CFM per outlet. It's not really important as far as sizing goes, but it's a good diagnostic tool to know what should be there. If you're out of the job and one outlet's giving you 44 CFM and one's giving you 20, you got a problem in the system. Because of aspiration and high velocity, outlets can be put in any configuration. We are forcing that air into a room. A typical system dumps air into a space and is pulled back by the return. SpacePak is forcing the air into the space and is looking for the return. So whether you're mounted in the ceiling, the floor, or the wall, you get a good even distribution of air. This chart shows you again the minimum outlet per ton. Now these outlets have to be completely open and within 9 to 15 feet. If you start putting restrictors in or go with longer tube lengths, you may have to add additional outlets. While 6 outlets per ton is the minimum, we recommend to the new user 7 outlets to make sure we're getting the proper airflow. This is the air handler itself. Okay, if you look at the air handler, you can even tell from the pictures, this is a very good construction. These units are literally handmade. Quality, painted construction. This will come up later on. I'll talk about our competition and why our system is more stable, more reliable, and quieter than the people we're up against. And note the location of the thermal expansion valve, which comes shipped with the unit. Again, that's an important note. 6-row coil. That's more BTUs at a lower CFM. Again, we're moving less air. It stays on the coil longer. Because of that, we get greater humidity removal. The government agency that talks about SEER ratings, they measure a unit in a laboratory with no ductwork attached and base it on electrical usage. We get no credit for humidity removal, so therefore it does not affect our SEER ratings. Unfortunately, if it does, we'd have a higher rating. Our unit comes standard as a heat pump, so it can be cooling only if that's all you need is a cooling, or operate as a heat pump down to probably about 40 degrees, and then supplemental heat can be added, hot water coil or an electric coil. You see on the bottom piece here, the coil sizing. Those coils are sized per air handler. The 60,000 BTU unit goes with a 2.5 ton. You cannot put that with a 3-ton unit or a 5-ton unit, and vice versa. They're sized to physically fit with the units, also maintain the same static pressure without causing additional problems. So when you're sizing up a system with a hydronic coil or an electric coil, you're going to match the coil to the air handler. It also makes it very easy to size because there's not too many options. The plenum duct we recommend and use stock is metal round with gasketed fittings. Very easy to install. As gasketed fittings go in, we recommend you put a sheet metal screw in there to keep it in place, but you don't really have to because there's no air leaking out of that. These things are designed to handle 10 inches of static pressure without leaks. The trunk duct does come in 6-foot lengths with 8 foot of insulation wrapped around it to cover up any kind of adapters or anything like that. So it comes with the R8 insulation, which will meet all the local codes. As I mentioned, we prefer the round duct. Air moves better through round. However, rectangular or square, it really doesn't matter. What does matter, however, is the amount of space you have. You need 64 square inches in the system in order to operate properly, quietly, without causing a problem for the air handler. So while 9-inch round is great, 8 by 8 inch square is good. However, oftentimes this is going into houses that have tight spaces. You don't have room for 9-inch round. You may have that 9-inch round to a certain place. You have to go to a soffit or something like that. As long as we can get any shape, configuration, whatever you want to put it, as long as it's 64 square inches, we can do that. So you can put a transition piece on, go to 3 by 21 rectangular, if that's what you need to fit underneath something, and then back out to the round or back up to the square, whatever you need it. The key there is the 64 square inches. Minimum lengths. The rule of 18. This is important because air takes a path of least resistance, much like water does. And so if you're going to put an outlet too close to the air handler or the end, it'll get more or less air. So coming off the air handler, before you put in an outlet or a T or an elbow of any kind, we need 18 inches. When you go into the end cap, back off 18 inches before you would have any kind of outlets. Between outlets, we would like to see 6 inches. That is not critical, and in practice it doesn't usually happen. But the rule of 18 is required. Do not put anything 18 inches from the air handler, the end cap, an elbow, or a T to get proper airflow. As long as you follow that, again, it's a pre-engineered system, it's going to work, and it's going to work good. Plenum configurations. Probably the most common configuration is that horseshoe design. In an attic or a basement, the air handler is set, you're sizing that by the return, and then your ductwork is going to run on the outside preferably. Many, many, many old installations, and quite frankly, old SpacePak literature shows a pipe coming down the middle and takeoffs on each side. It is wise for many reasons to use as much plenum duct as possible to minimize supply tube runs. A couple of reasons. One, again, we want to try to keep those plenum runs as equal as possible. And also, while the trunk line is larger, supply tubing is much more expensive or much more costly per foot. And so if we can minimize the amount of supply tube we use and maximize the trunk line, we can keep the cost down. The perimeter loop is ideally the best system if possible, because if you connect both ends, you're getting the same pressure guaranteed throughout the entire system. Again, if you follow our rules, you'll have that, but the perimeter loop will give you a guarantee of that. Okay, always run more plenum duct. Already said that. Another key here, though, if you're going to use that horseshoe configuration, you cannot have more than 60% of the takeoffs on one side of that T. Again, air moves the same as water, path of least resistance. If you were to put 80% of the takeoffs on one side, most of the air would be taken to that side, and the takeoffs on the other side would not get enough air. That L configuration you saw, no more than 30% of takeoffs on that side for the same reason. Now the slide tells us that if we want to, after a T or an elbow, we can drop down a duct size. I don't recommend that because you guys stock 9-inch round, customer orders 9-inch round, pre-engineered system. It's just easier to sell the entire system as is. As far as the supply tubing goes, I mentioned this before, but 9 to 15 feet is the ideal length of tubing. Too short, again, the air is going to rush to a shorter outlet. Too long, it's going to lose some of its capacity and cause strains in the system. Because we're moving less air more rapidly, and we're up at 26-degree temperature drop, we're getting close to freezing a coil. If we add restrictions to our system, more than 1.5 inches of static pressure on the supply side, more than 1/4 inch on the return side, we could have coils freezing. So if we have all of our outlets 9 to 15 feet, we got a nice balanced system. If we start putting in outlets that are 30, 40 feet long, while it will work, it could cause restrictions to the air handler. So if you need to do that, and in most cases you will need to do that, add extra outlets. Again, 6 per ton is the minimum. If you need several 30-foot outlets, probably add an outlet for every time you go over 30 feet. The rule below, 10% over 15 feet long, is a guideline. If you run one of their tubes 50 feet long, you'll feel air coming out of it, but it won't be 40 CFM and it won't be 2,000 BTUs. So if you need long outlets, they are permissible, but add additional outlets to that space. Interesting stuff. Well, at least I find it interesting. The National Comfort Institute says that the average conventional duct system leaks about 40%. So what's that mean? That means that a 16 SEER unit is actually producing about 10 SEER. Again, back at that government rating system that tests our units with no ductwork attached, based strictly on electrical use, you make the coil larger or the unit larger, it's less electricity. However, because we need an inch and a half static pressure, we're always going to be higher electrical usage and lower SEER rating. However, high velocity is going to leak less than 5%. And if installed properly, it's going to leak less than 0.5%. So a 12 SEER or 13 SEER SpacePak system is going to give you 12 or 13 SEER of delivered efficiency. Again, we get no credit for that from the government, and there won't be any rebates based on that. But that gets back to including the customer, letting the customer know that our system fits into a tight space and does work, and it works well. So why should you be selling SpacePak, and who should be buying it from you? Very simply put, it makes more money. The contractor who's just going to come in and bid a job to replace an old system with a new system and bang his head against a wall up against Goodman and people like that is not a SpacePak customer. Our systems cost more money, the markup is higher on them, and they are problem solvers. Therefore, you're going to look for a contractor who's that kind of contractor. The geothermal guy, the ductless guy, the guy who thinks outside the box and wants to have the right answers for his customers. And customers do like it. We have had multiple people who have left a SpacePak home and installed SpacePak in a new construction because they like the system's availability for moisture removal and small duct. So if a customer's been told they cannot have a ducted system because there's no room in their house, SpacePak is an option. So again, I'm not telling anybody they shouldn't sell Carrier or Bryant or that they shouldn't sell their ductless product line. But if someone does not want to see a wall-hung unit or does not want large ductwork, SpacePak is an option. It's an option your better contractors should be aware of. And again, it does work. And as that first slide or second slide showed you, you have local support from the reps. We have factory support on our systems. And once again, you can make more money, and so can your contractor. So why does it matter? It is a space saver. In our marketing area, again, the main line of Philadelphia, Jersey Shore, any city, Lancaster, Wilkes-Barre, Hamilton, New Jersey, places like that, all have old hydronic homes. They were built back in the early 1900s or even 1800s. They have boilers in them. They don't have ductwork. They have small rooms, small closets. They were built in a different time period. You cannot put traditional ductwork in there. And you may not even be able to put in a workable ductless system to get to all the places it needs to get to. SpacePak then is your option. We can run that 9-inch ductwork in soffits, in attics, in basements, and snake that 2-inch ductwork inside of closets, behind walls, and places like that to give you a good-looking job in an aesthetically pleasing building. In Chester County, there are a lot of farm homes that people buy that they don't want to live in a farm home. They want to live in a New York condo. The appearance of SpacePak, or actually the lack of appearance of SpacePak, is a solution to that problem. Also, because of its quick connect fittings and the tubing the way it's run and pre-engineered, it can actually install in less time than a traditional ducted system can. You're trying to add ductwork to an attic. You know, 24 by 10 ductwork versus 9-inch round is it's being more difficult to install, take longer time. And once again, it does work. It's comfortable, it cools the air, and you have the ability to heat the air also. SpacePak is also good for that customer of yours who's into in-floor radiant. In-floor radiant, probably the best way to heat a space. And if the homeowner is going to the cost of putting in-floor radiant in, they're not going to be surprised by the cost of a ducted system. However, why put a large ducted system into a building when you have in-floor radiant in for heating? Go with a small duct high-velocity system. In new construction, even putting 9-inch ductwork in is going to be easier than putting in large, cumbersome ductwork, as well as trying to size it properly and do the proper transitions to get the static pressure where you need it. Again, guaranteed performance based on the size of our ductwork, location, it's going to work. We also have the availability for air filtration. So our PurePak, which you also stock, is a great option to add. Virtually everybody I know who has children, their children have allergies. People actually will run our PurePak filters when the system is not needed, just to purify the air in the space. They also can be used with energy recovery systems. Traditionally, our marketplace is that historic, unique architectural details type homes in the cities like Lancaster and Philadelphia and such like that. But really, they can go anywhere where you don't have existing ductwork and you don't want to use up an entire attic space or something like that to add ductwork. Okay, so how are you going to sell it and who should be interested in it? Look for the opportunities. Historic homes and even commercial office spaces, we can use that to solve a problem. Anytime you see a house with a window unit, that's potential for SpacePak. Again, they may have heating ductwork there, okay, fine. But if there's no ductwork at all, SpacePak might be the easier and quicker solution. It's a year-round sale. And you'll talk to any contractor who's worked in attics before, he'd much rather work there in the spring and the fall than he would be in the summertime, and not in the wintertime either. Don't focus on the high cost of equipment. It does cost more, which makes your markup greater. Focus on the overall job costs. Our system can install less expensively than a conventional ductwork system if we can keep those costs down by lowering the installed cost. Also, it's not sold on cost, it's sold on problem solving. It cools an area that was told it couldn't have cooled before. It is true central air conditioning. And so it's going to solve a problem for a customer that maybe have been told before they couldn't have central air. And it is quiet. If it's installed properly, 6 full outlets for 10, 7 will give you a nice quiet installation. SpacePak has a large volume of marketing materials, and if you have a contractor who's interested in promoting SpacePak, we will work with you to help them promote the product, give them the literature they need, door hangers. We can work with them to promote our high-velocity product. Example of where SpacePak works and how it looks. You probably won't believe this, but those pictures of the diffusers actually have to be colored in, or else they blend into the picture, and you really wouldn't notice them that well. This is a picture using our slotted diffusers, a new product we have to help those areas where you can't fit in even the traditional round ones. And as I said before, it can be used commercially. A wide open space where you have assembly lines, something like that, where you're dumping the air onto people. You don't necessarily have to cool the entire factory, just the work areas. And who's the competition? SpacePak and Unico are the two top and virtually the only 2 brands left that are selling high velocity. And so if you're up against Unico, single piece construction versus modular construction. As you saw in the pictures earlier, that single piece construction is very robust. It is handmade, and it is quality insulated cabinetry. The modular construction works fine, but does have a potential for leakage. And if the clips come loose, a lot of leakage. We have a dedicated vertical unit. Theirs has to be field installed. Field installed means more labor. More labor means more dollars. I showed you that picture with the TXV factory mounted. A TXV is shipped separately with the Unico system. Why that's a problem is you now have to braze that system on. It's going to take time and effort. If the brazing is not done properly, it's going to create a problem with your thermal expansion valve. So again, it's a time saver. Less time, less money. The baked enamel finish is very big. If anybody has seen both of our systems side by side, the galvanized steel unit looks cheap, for lack of a better word. Both systems work fine. Both systems are quality systems. But for a homeowner who's paying $1,500 for an air handler, the baked enamel finish gives you a nice clean look. Quick connect fittings versus a swedged fitting that Unico uses. Again, the quick connect fittings happen quickly. You get an airtight seal as soon as you snap those things a 1/4 inch. So it's a quick fix and also airtight. The clamps can come loose and should be screwed in, which is additional labor. It's also a place where air leaks can occur. When you're moving that air at the velocity we're moving, a leak is a bad thing. You want the air to be coming out the diffuser, not through the ductwork. SpacePak also offers a full line of chillers and boilers, wall units and floor mount units, buffer tanks, and small tonnage air handlers to solve problems in homes and light commercial spaces. The biggest thing is you. Pierce Phelps has for years stocked and promoted the SpacePak system. You have the people, the products, and the inventory to make a difference, and the difference being, again, better dollars. You have a good customer base of loyal carrier Bryant dealers who want to buy products from you. If you make them aware that you have the availability of a high velocity system, there's no reason why they shouldn't buy it from you. And again, because of the higher cost of our product, it's more money for you. So don't take any chances. Install the right kind of system in the right place. Once again, this is our fine local marketing crew. We're always willing to help you. Call 24 hours a day or night. They may not answer, but they will get back to you in a timely fashion. That is the solutions from SpacePak. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.